A historic day for Asian Americans on Capitol Hill. OU students come together to discuss racist incidents in Norman, and a man with 100 rounds of ammunition was outside Vice President Harris's house. This is OU Nightly. Hello, thanks for joining us for OU Nightly. I'm Deyton.
And I'm Emma Sears. As we pass the one-year mark of the coronavirus pandemic, violence against Asian Americans continues to rise.
Just days after the Atlanta shooting, the U.S. House Judiciary Committee held a hearing today regarding Asian American discrimination. OU Nightly's Skylar Tallal is live in Washington, D.C. Skylar?
Today's hearing covering discrimination against Asian Americans is the first one in nearly 3 decades. For many, this discussion is long overdue. Lawmakers and panel witnesses testified today, but let's take a look at one conversation that got emotional.
Your president and your party and your colleagues can talk about issues with any other country that you want. But you don't have to do it by putting a bullseye on the back of Asian Americans across this country, on our grandparents, on our kids. This hearing was to address the hurt and pain of our community and to find solutions, and we will not let you take our voice away from us.
This reaction came after Representative Chip Roy criticized the very nature of today's hearing. He complained about the Chinese government and also mentioned an old Texas saying using the word lynching. Roy also talked about other lawmakers attributed this rise in attacks to the rhetoric former President Donald Trump and Republican lawmakers used when talking about COVID-19. Reporting live from D.C., Skylar Tallal, OU Nightly.
Thank you, Skylar. Following a recent racist situation that involved the Norman High School girls basketball team, OU and ABJ students said they're disappointed but not surprised. OU Nightly's Weger has that story and more.
After a racist remark from an announcer, students are calling for a change.
The broadcaster should be held accountable so something like this doesn't happen in the future.
Matt Rowan, the announcer at a recent Norman High basketball game, called players a racial slur after they knelt during the national anthem.
We all just decided to come as a team and kneel together because we wanted to bring attention and awareness to the fact that racism is still alive and well today.
OU National Association of Black Journalists held an open forum discussion for OU students to talk about racism in the media.
I think that if we want to address racism in the media, we need to start by being intentional with the words we use, because we have no idea how detrimental our words can be to a particular community and to ending systemic oppression.
OU and ABJ students emphasize the importance of unity, diversity, and education. One of the best ways to educate yourself is a simple Google search.
Google is free. You can find so many good resources.
But the first step is truly wanting to make a change.
Until people want true equity, true equality for everyone, there's not going to be an end.
OU and ABJ students encourage others to educate through books, online resources, and other outlets available.
An armed man was arrested outside of Vice President Kamala Harris's house in D.C. Lauren Johnson has that story and the rest of today's headlines from around the world. Lauren?
Thanks, Deyton. A Texas man was arrested outside of Vice President Kamala Harris's house in D.C. last night and now is facing weapons and ammunition charges. Police say he had an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle and over 100 rounds of unregistered ammo in his vehicle. The U.S. Secret Service detained the man out of suspicion, and police came to the scene. A Secret Service official says none of their protectees were in the house at the time of the incident. The FBI has been looking through footage for months, searching for suspects, and today they released new footage from inside the Capitol riots. This new video shows police being assaulted during the riots on January 6th and images of new suspects. The body cam footage shows rioters assaulting police with metal poles, stolen shields, and stolen chemical sprays. The FBI is hoping that this footage will help identify the new suspects. President Biden is laying his groundwork on raising taxes for wealthier Americans. Biden plans to raise taxes for Americans that make more than $400,000 yearly. The White House administration says Americans making less won't be seeing any additional taxes. Biden says he's a firm believer of Americans doing their part and sees that wealthier Americans aren't doing enough when it comes to taxes. A New York man is found guilty for keeping live sandbar sharks in his pool in an attempt to sell them. This man is now facing fines for illegal possessions, and the sharks are now in a New York aquarium. Emma, back to you.
Lauren, while vaccines are continuing to be administered, we are still seeing new COVID cases in Oklahoma. There are over 11,000 cases active in the state, with almost 560 of those cases being reported today. There are also more than 7,600 total deaths in Oklahoma, according to the CDC.
OU Health will host a virtual ceremony tonight to commemorate the lives lost from COVID-19 in Oklahoma. Today marks the one-year anniversary of the first death in the state from the virus. OU Health plans to use the ceremony to remember the first death and to honor those who have died so far from COVID-19. The event will be live streamed via OU Health's Facebook from 7:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m.
And it's been pretty dark and windy recently in Oklahoma.
Juliana Mejia is live and has more on what we can expect in the future. Juliana?
I don't know. Awesome. Hey guys, coming to you live from the top of Gaylord right now. Evidently very cloudy out, definitely a lot cloudier than it was at the start of the day. And luckily for the crew and I, if you've been outside either yesterday or today, you've definitely felt those Oklahoman winds. But again, luckily for the crew and I, it's not too breezy at the moment. Taking a look at our wind map, you can see winds across Oklahoma are coming from the north, definitely what are keeping us chilly right now, leaving me with plenty of goosebumps to share. Winds are in the upper teens and gusting up to about 23 miles per hour here in Norman. And moving right along into the satellite map, you can see how that cloud coverage has pretty much rolled through today. Definitely residual of the low pressure system that has swung by, creating showers yesterday and initiating the severe storms and tornadoes that were seen in Dixie Alley yesterday, all of which I'll have details on in the full forecast coming up. For now, I'm sending it back to Emma and Deyton in the studio.
Thank you, Juliana. If you've tested positive with COVID-19 recently, a study shows that a certain type of pain reliever may be able to help.
Coming up, we will tell you what it is and how to use it.
And you may not want to wait to see you may not have to wait too long to see your loved ones in nursing homes.
Hear what Governor Stitt had to say straight ahead on OU Nightly.
Welcome back to OU Nightly. As the U.S. continues vaccinations, the Biden administration may be sending vaccines to other countries. Haley Weger has more on the story in health.
Thanks, Emma. The Biden administration plans to send millions of COVID vaccines over the border to Canada and Mexico. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki confirmed 7 million available doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. 2.5 million of those are on track to go to Mexico and 1.5 million to Canada. Both Mexico and Canada are struggling with their vaccine rollout compared to the U.S. The Biden administration is waiting for official usage approval and is expected to share more information about the plans tomorrow. And low-dose aspirin may keep COVID-19 patients out of the ICU. A new study shows that over-the-counter pills can prevent blood clots, protect your lungs, and lower the risk of death. If you are diagnosed with COVID-19, taking aspirin daily may prevent you from being put on a ventilator. Aspirin is also being recommended by doctors because it is easily accessible and cheaper than anti-COVID drugs. Almost a year after Oklahoma closed visitation at long-term care facilities, you may be able to see your loved ones who live in nursing homes. Governor Stitt announced new visitation guidelines. Each long-term care or assisted living resident can now designate essential caregivers to visit them in person. The caregivers must complete an online state-certified training, which takes less than 15 minutes. All long-term care facilities are encouraged to follow the new guidelines. Deyton and Emma, back to you guys.
Thanks, Haley. Millions across Oklahoma are now eligible to be vaccinated, including the homeless. Stick around with OU Nightly to see what's happening.
And Juliana, what can we expect for the weather this weekend?
Yeah, luckily for us here in Norman, definitely much nicer conditions on the way. Some sunshine and a little bit of a warm up, getting into the 60s. I'll have details on the forecast for us coming up. Welcome back to OU Nightly. We're kicking things off with a review of yesterday's events and the tornado outbreak over in Dixie Alley, Alabama, Mississippi. This is in Alabama. You can see, I think it might have passed by, but here is Mississippi. We've got a chicken farm that was completely, obviously obliterated. Pretty much hardly any of it is left standing. Definitely incredible damage. And actually, you can see here, this is pretty much a house completely ripped off of its foundation, and large trees pretty much uprooted and completely knocked over. So actually taking a look now at statistics from yesterday's events. Moving on, here we go. 99 tornado warnings were issued between Tuesday and today, and 206 severe thunderstorm warnings, and a total of 27 tornadoes across Dixie Alley as of yesterday were reported. So definitely an intense outbreak and definitely a lot of damage so far, and no fatalities have been reported, fortunately. And actually taking a look at our categorical outlook from the Storm Prediction Center, we do have still an enhanced area of, sorry, I skipped right ahead, enhanced area of risk. So this storm system is definitely continuing on. It's moving further east and slowly dying out. But to bring the forecast back here at home in Oklahoma, lows tonight, we're cooling off quite a bit. We're in the upper 30s for majority of the state, and tomorrow definitely below average. And looking at your day planner, walking out the door tomorrow morning, starting off the day at 38 degrees, but we do have sunshine that will warm us up into the upper 50s, ending the day in the evening at 57 degrees. And to leave you off with your 7-day forecast, we again will have sunshine and a little bit of a warming trend all the way for the weekend. 64 degrees as a high on Sunday. Now we do have winds that are going to stick around, okay? Fortunately, our winds are going to switch from the north, coming back up from the south, and so that will kind of give us that warm up. And then going into next week, we do have rain on the way. Coming to rain on our parade of our nice weekend, and so definitely keep an eye on that. Most chances for Monday, kind of the timing of that cold front all depends. But Emma, Deyton, I do encourage you guys to take advantage of the beautiful weekend up ahead, definitely before all that rain continues on and bears down on us. So send it back to you guys.
Thanks, Juliana. The homeless community is just one of the countless communities greatly affected by the coronavirus. And now in Norman, they have the chance to get vaccinated. OU Nightly's Katie Ehrhardt has more.
Oklahoma is continuing to be one of the top states for vaccine distribution.
Oklahoma, we're currently ranked number 7th in the country per capita in vaccines.
3.5 million Oklahomans are now eligible for the vaccine, and many of them are homeless. This week in Norman, the Cleveland County Health Department and Norman Regional Health Services are teaming up with local partners to effectively distribute vaccines to the homeless. The vaccines are desperately needed in the homeless community.
We've always worried that if COVID got into our community, that it would spread very rapidly because of the nature of the way our community is set up. But also people who have been homeless a long time have a lot of health issues. A lot of the comorbidities that we're all worried about exist within the homeless population.
The people at Food and Shelter are excited and grateful for the opportunity to receive the vaccine. It gives them hope and reassurance during these difficult times. Katie Ehrhardt, OU Nightly.
Food and Shelter in Norman distributed 80 vaccines this week and plans to distribute more next week.
And get excited, basketball fans, because March Madness starts tonight.
Grace Burget is talking hoops today in sports coming up next.
And welcome back to OU Nightly. I'm Grace Burget. And let's take a closer look into the sports world. We begin tonight with an update on the NCAA's COVID-19 testing prior to the NCAA tournament. The league says it has completed over 9,000 COVID-19 tests heading into the tournament, with only 8 people testing positive. And speaking of March Madness, hopefully you filled out your bracket because we finally have some game to watch. The first 4 of the tournament play tonight. And my game to watch tonight is the UCLA Bruins going up against the Michigan State Spartans to see who can secure an 11 seed in the tournament. The Bruins finished 4th in the Pac-12 and the Spartans wrapped up the season 8th in a stacked Big Ten conference. The two teams face off at 8:57 p.m. And the Sooner men's basketball team begins their journey in the Big Dance on Saturday against the Missouri Tigers. OU Nightly reporter Shannon Ehrhardt has a preview of Saturday's matchup.
The most watched tournament in all of college sports will be underway this Thursday, and the Oklahoma Sooners secured an 8th seed in the Big Dance against the 9th-ranked Missouri Tigers. Now, OU has lost 5 of their last 6 games by less than 7 and split 2 conference series.
There's no cakewalk in the NCAA tournament. Missouri's a really good team. They was, I believe, in the top 10. I know they was 12 at one point earlier in the year, midseason. So it's not any bad team. So I mean, you really just got to be prepared and be willing to do whatever it takes to just grind out wins. Honestly,
all eyes are going to be glued to the TV by everybody in the world for the next 3.5, 4 weeks. So I'm excited. It's a new season. Everybody is 0-0.
Now, the last time these two teams met was during the Kelvin Sampson era, where the Sooners took the win over the Tigers, clinching a spot in the Final Four. For OU Nightly Sports, I'm Shannon Ehrhardt.
The Sooners and the Tigers tip off on Saturday in Indianapolis. From the hardwood to the mat, the co-Big 12 champion OU wrestling team is currently competing for the NCAA title. Big 12 Coach of the Year Lou Roselli brings 7 qualified wrestlers to St. Louis in hopes of improving on their 25th place finish 2 years ago. The Sooners are led by Big 12 champion Dom Demas and Big 12 runners-up Tony Madrigal and Mitch Moore. The NCAA champion will be crowned Saturday night. And it is finally football time in Oklahoma as head coach Lincoln Riley held a press conference this morning regarding spring football. In addition to Oklahoma's spring roster being released, Riley expressed his team's excitement about getting back on the field and put an emphasis on player development this spring.
I think there's a lot of anticipation both from the players and coaches of getting back on the field here for spring ball. Obviously it's something that we missed last year. I think everybody recognizes the opportunity it is for us to develop as a football team and for these guys to continue their development as players.
And one of the biggest takeaways from today's press conference is that senior safety Pat Fields will miss most of spring football due to a minor cleanup procedure. He is expected to be back for the summer. And you can catch the Oklahoma City Thunder in action tonight against former Sooner Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks at 6:30 p.m. Emma and Deyton, back to you.
Thanks, Grace. Earlier this year, meteorologists had to come up with different ways to name the record-breaking amount of hurricanes.
Find out which of these names will no longer be used straight ahead on OU Nightly.
I'm Jessie Klinger at the OU Nightly Update Desk. The 10th juror for the trial regarding George Floyd's death has been chosen. The process comes after Judge Cahill dismissed 2 of the 7 jurors on Wednesday. Cahill has set March 29th for opening statements if the jury is complete by then. That's it for now. Back to you in the studio.
The World Meteorological Organization announced 4 hurricane names that will be retired this year. Dorian, Laura, Etna, and Iota will never be used again due to the heavy damage those storms caused last year.
In addition, the entire Greek alphabet will no longer be used as a backup if the main list is exhausted due to pronunciation issues. A brand new secondary list with new names will be used in its place starting this year.
Thank you for watching OU Nightly, brought to you by Gaylord College of Journalism and Mass Communication.
Join us here tomorrow at the same time, same place. Good night.